The story of a kick-ass entrepreneur mentality. 6 weeks before I was about to close on the largest financial transaction of my life, the bank changed its mind on the loan it had agreed to give me. The loan officer called me on September 15, 2008, the day Lehman Brothers filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. "Sorry Jeff, we know that we signed the paperwork to advance you the funds for the mortgage on your apartment building, but unfortunately we can't move forward as planned." Now that was a nerve-wracking experience. Let's rewind. It was the summer of 2008, and I had decided that I was ready to expand my investment portfolio into real estate. More specifically, I wanted to purchase my first apartment building. My timing couldn't have been worse or better, depending on which way you want to view the situation. Okay, let's rewind even further. I was exposed to the apartment building business as a young child. I vividly remember visiting the small apartment buildings my grandfather owned in the early to mid-1970s. He was a European immigrant who arrived in North America in the early 1950s with a suitcase, a wife and 2 children, and a few dollars in his pocket. He didn't speak English when he got here, which made the transition all the more difficult. Luckily, he found a job as a butcher, but it wasn't an easy life. Still, he saved every penny he could and ended up putting that money into apartment buildings. Real estate became his salvation from the countless hours he spent chopping meat, taking orders, and waiting on customers in the butcher shop. Although I didn't understand it at the time, I later grew to appreciate what it meant to own an income-producing real estate property. My grandfather, who came from a different generation of course, refused to hire out any of the work that needed to be done to his properties. Every time we visited his buildings, which I always enjoyed because it meant spending time with him, he would pull out his paintbrush and do a minor touch-up, replace the light bulbs or lay down new tiling, weed the garden or fix the toilet, and let's not forget collect the rent. The thing is, my grandfather wasn't a handyman, he was a butcher with a paintbrush. Nothing ever looked perfect, but he took tremendous pride in his buildings and the small real estate portfolio he had created. When we were together, he explained as best he could in a non-business way his heavy European accent not making it any easier concepts such as mortgage, income, and the building of wealth through real estate investment. 3 things made his eyes twinkle: 1, speaking of my grandmother, his princess; 2, his family; and 3, his buildings. He was my inspiration, and with that experience in mind, I knew that someday I too would get into the real estate market. When I started out, it took me a few months, but I eventually found the perfect property. A 21-unit building built in the 1930s on a beautiful street close to downtown Toronto, in a trendy, upscale part of the city known as the Beaches. It was an otherwise older, ugly building, but it was in good condition, and you couldn't beat the location. The building had tremendous upside. The capitalization rate, or CAP rate, net operating income divided by the current market value, was excellent at 8.5%, the rents were well below market, and the building looked like a great investment opportunity. The sale price was $1.65 million. Although I realized it would require a lot of work including a new roof, boiler, driveway, and a list of engineering projects that I needed to complete before the bank would finance me, I was ready. I put down my non-refundable $100,000 deposit in June of 2008 and was ready to close. What I didn't know was that a complete market meltdown was mere months away. By October, post-Lehman Brothers, the credit markets came to a complete freeze. Then on September 15th, the bank pulled the loan. Forgetting a day like that is hard, actually, it's impossible. In my wildest imagination, it never occurred to me that this could happen, especially since I had the signed paperwork and a commitment from the bank. Talk about stressful. I didn't sleep for days, and I had this nagging feeling that I was screwed. At such a late stage, I had a few options, one of which was walking away from my $100,000 deposit, not an ideal scenario. The other was to find an alternate bank. I made calls, and as it happened, none of the banks was interested in lending at the time. Furthermore, it was going to take too long to coordinate a new bank loan in that short a period, especially considering the state of the credit markets. I called my lawyer, and we sent a legal letter to the original bank. After a great deal of back and forth, the bank agreed to the loan, but changed the terms to an incredibly unfavorable rate. It felt like extortion. I called the seller, explained that I was in a bad predicament, and told them I was ready to walk away from the sale. Although I understood I would likely lose my deposit, buying the building in that environment and with the new interest rate just didn't feel like a risk I was prepared to take. Uncertain of what to do, I asked the seller to take an additional $50,000 off the price, which somewhat to my surprise they agreed to. And just like that, I was the new owner. I closed on the building on November 18, 2008. The headline in the papers that day read, "U.S. has spent over $4 trillion to combat economic crisis." At the time, I honestly wasn't sure if I had made the right decision.
Before going on, if you feel that I have given you some value, please help me by smashing the like button, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell, so you will be updated when I upload new videos like this.
I had a large mortgage, approximately 60% of the building's value, and it felt like the world economy was dropping down to zero. I tried to stay positive and kept repeating one of Warren Buffett's famous quotes to myself: "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." It almost became my mantra. Although the real estate market was essentially frozen, I decided to build a portfolio as quickly as I could. I took all of my 2009 business profits and bought my second building that year, this time a high-end 5-unit property with a 7% CAP rate. In 2010, I bought my third building, an 11-unit at a 6.5% CAP rate, and in 2011, I capitalized on the poor state of the real estate market in South Florida and purchased a 12-unit residence in North Miami Beach at an 8% CAP rate. Fast forward a few years, and in 2016, I sold the Miami building at double what I paid. When I bought it in 2011, it cost me $1 million. I put down 50%, and by 2016 the building was worth $2 million. In that 5-year span, I paid off $100,000 of the mortgage, and when the building was sold, I turned my initial $500,000 investment into a $1.6 million value, a 220% return in 5 years. My grandfather would be proud. Today, the buildings are all worth almost triple what I paid for them, and CAP rates for multi-unit residential buildings, MURs, are trading at historical lows of 3%. Most of my mortgages have also been paid for. I'm now sitting on large income-generating assets that continue to provide large inflation-protected dividends. Getting into the right mindset, as you've likely picked up on, I love real estate. It's my favorite of the 3 buckets. It's an amazing vehicle for creating wealth, and I give the topic plenty of attention throughout this book. But I also wanted to relay the above story to help you understand the mindset necessary to succeed with your investment portfolio. It's the same one that makes you a kick-ass entrepreneur. First, take a page from Warren Buffett, and don't get fear and greed mixed up at the wrong times. Remember, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Related, plow through your fear, and when you find the right opportunity, make sure to pounce on it. For example, if I hadn't taken a risk on that first building, I may never have entered the real estate market at all. I could still be pounding the pavement of downtown Toronto for all I know. Make sure you educate yourself, and then trust your instincts. If you're lucky enough to have a grandparent or someone older that you admire, spend as much time with them as you can. There's a level of maturity and life experience that comes with age, and by appreciating them and all their wisdom while you have the chance, you'll learn more than you might ever have expected. I'm sure you've heard the expression, the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. While it can have many meanings, in this instance I am referring to the decisions you will make that will help you produce your wealth. Again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of discipline, and a series of smart business decisions must be made slowly over time. You're an entrepreneur. You're comfortable taking risks, and you understand risk and reward. You've trusted your own instincts in the past, and there's no reason not to as they relate to your business moving forward. And other opportunities as they arise. This mentality will be essential in moving forward with the 3 buckets investment strategy. And it's not just a coincidence that this chapter is built around my real estate success stories. If you're willing to do the research and take some smart risks, real estate can work just as well for you as it has for me. That's where we'll begin in the next chapter. Note, when you invest in yourself, your own business, and your own investing prowess, you're taking control of the outcome. With careful diligence, planning, research, and education, you can influence the outcome without having to rely on the stock market. Before we end, here is a 5 summary at a glance to help you recall what we just told. Number 1. Develop a true kick-ass entrepreneur mentality. Number 2. Plow through your fear, and when you find the right opportunity, pounce. Number 3. Educate yourself, and then trust your instincts. Number 4. Creating wealth doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of discipline, and a series of smart business decisions that must be made slowly over time. And finally, number 5. Real estate is an amazing vehicle for creating wealth. What do you think of this story? We could only hope that you will learn from this. And if you love this video, please do not hesitate to give us a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep you updated. Thanks for watching, and see you on our next video.